Improvising study 4 is, I guess I say this too often, it's one of my favorite studies. There's a lot of studies on the website. The reason why I like this one, the 5-4-1 transitions. Okay, that is an area, I mean, you had some cool 5-4-1s, and I know you grabbed some from some of our study songs and stuff, and that's great. If, in my own mind, I have levels, criteria of, okay, this person can do this, they get that's a check mark in my list that this person's more advanced. If I was to go see a local professional, what I would expect to hear, local professional meaning not like an upper echelon, one of the things I would expect to hear is weak 5-4-1s. Good player, lead a band, play songs, but one of the things that commonly is a weak area in players' skill set is 5-4-1s. Or another way to put it is the great players have killer 5-4-1s. So that's something we want to aspire to. It is also an area I sure remember growing up as a harmonica player, when bar 9 would come, I would think, what do I do here? Because the chord progression, the harmonic pacing, how fast at which chords change, gets faster. In the first bar, we have 4 bars of the 1 chord. Harmonic pacing is, it's just not there at all. It's just, you're out there in the big play field. Then the 4 chord for 2 bars, that's still a long time, 1 chord for 2 bars, and then we're changing chords every bar. That's where what we play is more dictated or guided by the chords. So we need to be more cognizant of what the chords are doing. Simply stated, players, the cooler licks, generally speaking, have more notes of the chord involved. So if we really get to know the chord, these licks will be easier to learn, easier to retain. So what we're going to first start studying with is, number one, just identify where the 5-4-1 is, and this is for our newer players out here. This is the I Want You With Me jam track. This is the accompaniment study number 3. This has been provided. Actually, I think it's been provided in study 2 as well. So let's take a listen. 2, 3, 4, 1. This is bar 1 of the 12-bar blues. Here's the 4 chord. Now we're in bar 5. Back to the 1 chord in bar 7. Here we come. Here's the 5 chord. To the 4 chord. And now we're in the turnaround. 1 chord, a little bit of the 5 chord, back to the 1. So that bar 9 is what we call from the 5. And if we're going to start the song, you could start it actually right there. 5, 4, 1, turnaround, and then everybody comes in on the downbeat of the 1 chord. So that's what we call the 5, or from the 5. There is a 5 chord associated with the last couple beats, but that's associated in what we call the turnaround. So if we were to start there, we'd say from the turnaround. So on bar 9 is where the 5-4-1 comes in. And the cool thing is that the licks I'm going to show you right now are generally usable in, oh God, I'd like to say all your songs. They're so, it's just an area that you can say, if I study some cool 5-4-1 licks, it just is so ubiquitous in blues. I mean, that's pretty much always there. Even if the chords go 2-5-1, which is a common jump and swing blues change, you can still use your 5-4-1 licks. They still sound good on top of it. And whether it's a slow blues, a shuffle, or a swing, the same lick can be used. So a lot of times, if you have 5 killer 5-4-1 licks, you're kind of good, you know? And we want to go more over time, but an important thing that I want to state as we go through this, I've written over 100 5-4-1 licks. Some of them are mine, some of them are arpeggio based, which again still make cool licks. A lot of them, the majority of them come from great players. You can have Little Walter licks and Kim Wilson licks and Rod Piazza licks and George Harmonica Smith licks. They're all in there. And I could have just kept on going, right? Because how many 5-4-1s exist? Well, every chorus has a 5-4-1. So I really could have kept on going, and I really enjoyed writing this because I enjoy playing these too. But the important thing is, as we go through these licks, I don't want you to necessarily make your practice to go through all the licks that we study. I want you to choose one, and choose one for that month. So it is best, for our purpose, we're going to go through all of them, but I want you to be aware of that. I want you to highlight only one per page and then take that one and implement that into your playing for 1 month's period of time. And the reason for that is to focus on everything means to focus on nothing. And I've done this many, many years with students, and when I get excited and we go through all of them together and then I just have them work on all of them, I don't hear them in their playing very much. Their 5-4-1s get a little bit better, But with the students, I say we're going to do 1, and then every time a 5-4-1 comes up when you're jamming, stick that sucker in there. And what'll happen is at the end of the month, there's obviously that one's going to go in there. Probably because you get to play a lot, maybe you can choose 2. So do 2 pages, pick the 2 that you like the most, and then use them habitually over the month's time, and then you're guaranteed they'll be in your vocabulary.
Yeah.
The next definition, and all we're going to focus on today, is actually just the notes of the chord. When I loop the 5 chord, and I have provided a 5 chord loop practice track for you on the website. There's a shuffle version and a slow blues. I'm going to start with the shuffle version. Let's take a listen. You get 2 bars and then you start. Take a listen. Now I could just play a lick that starts on the 5 chord and ignores the 4 chord and leads to the 1 chord in bar 11. The purpose of that 5-4-1 is, or it's leading to, in other words, the downbeat of bar 11, going to the 1 chord.
Yeah.
So you sure could treat the 5-4-1 as just, I'm starting here with almost any lick. It could, to a certain degree, not have anything to do with the 5 chord from a phrasing perspective, because we know phrasing trumps chord change. It's an interesting statement that we've said little by little in our chorus form studies.
Yeah.
But you can, as long as you play a cool lick that starts on bar 9 and resolves commonly on the 2 draw on bar 11, it works from a phrasing perspective. But we want to take it to the next level. Let's both phrase and play notes that are relative to the 5 chord. Because here's the cool thing. If you use your generic vocabulary, which I just played a generic lick, you are using up your generic lick vocabulary faster, simply stated. If you play a lick that actually tips your hat to the 5 chord, you're not only playing notes that you normally couldn't play anywhere else, which makes them really special, and they really sound cool when presented in bar 9. Now you have something that sounds extra special that can only be used in this place, which makes that lick even cooler. Plus, you're not utilizing your generic lick vocabulary, of which we all only have so much. The other cool thing is once you get some great 5-4-1 licks and great turnaround licks, you have now focused on making 1/3 of all your soloing better. So even though this is a kind of a small focus, in the end it's not really. It's 1/3 of what we play if we combine our 5-4-1 and our turnaround licks. The next thing is we don't have to start right on the downbeat of the 5 chord. We can play a pickup. For example, as long as we're getting to the 5 chord, right? So don't let pickups confuse you out there and as the students. And just a reminder that after the downbeat, the turnaround begins. So if I play a real cliche 5-4-1, and then I'll point when I play the cliche turnaround. Right? And the turnaround starts on the and of beat 1. That's where the turnaround starts. So we get 5, 2, 3, 4 to the 4, 2, 3, 4, resolve, and then da 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 da, and that's where the turnaround begins. So we want to know where that is, because when we go to study 5, you're going to be connecting your 5-4-1s and your turnarounds. By the way, there is no name for these licks. I just had to call it something, and many years ago I called it a 5-4-1 transition. I don't know now if transition is necessarily the best term. Does the job. So we'll just say a 5 chord lick or a 5-4-1 lick or a 5-4-1 transition lick. You know, we all know what's going on.